The topic of this video is how to apply a texture to an object and have it scroll in some sort of direction. You can use this to get a lot of different basic effects, like a background that's moving underneath your character, so you can play a running animation and the background looks like it's moving, but you actually don't have to do that at all. You're just manipulating the texture. You could also maybe do like a waterfall with that. I think I've seen somebody do that. There's a lot of little ways that maybe you might apply an effect like this. So I have my character and there's this really dense fog that comes down, kind of looks like snow, right? So maybe what I want to do is I want to add a background that looks like maybe my character is like running up a mountainside through an avalanche. Well, I went ahead and found the snow texture on Google, and I know it does have like copyright, watermarks all over it. So I would, if I was gonna actually do something with this, I would find a better texture than that. But once you found a texture that you like, go ahead and drag and drop it into your textures folder. And then we need to create a material for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click and create a new material. And I'm gonna call this snow_matte. On this material in the albedo channel, go ahead and apply that texture that you got from Google. So I'm gonna take a plane and I'm gonna rotate it, like 90, negative 90. There we go, negative 90. And I guess I'm gonna push it back a little bit. Sure, 0, 0, 0. All right, something like that. Just stretching it out so that this plane covers the entire screen. And then I'm gonna drag the snow material onto it. So to do this, we actually do need to create a script for this plane. So I'm gonna right click in the scripts folder and I'm gonna create a new C# script and I'm gonna call it like scroll texture, since that's what this script will be doing. For this script, we're gonna want some options so that this script can be versatile for your project. So there's a few variables that we want. Speed on the X and speed on the Y. Reference to the renderer, a reference to the current textures X and Y so that we can apply speed to that and change its offset. In start, we will want to assign the renderer. Gosh, we could even get a material too, since I think it's the material that we're mainly getting. Yeah, so I'm going to change this. We'll want a reference to the material. So we're going to want to assign the material. Yeah, using get component. And then from here, what we're going to want to do is assign the current textures X to the main texture offset.x, just so that you know where you're starting. And then same thing, you're going to want to assign the current texture Y equal to the main textures offset.y. And if you take a look at the snow material right now, my offset right here is at 0, 0. And as we change this offset, look what happens. It scrolls the texture on the plane, right? So this offset, that's why we're grabbing a handle to this. And then instead of update, probably going to want to use fixed update. We're going to want to take our current X and add that to our change over time. So time dot whatever delta time times our speed. And I think, yeah, our speed times our speed X. And then we'll take our current Y and do the same thing. Plus equals the time dot delta time. So the change over time times our speed Y. And once we've applied the speed over time, all we need to do is take that stored value that we're changing and reapply it to our texture so that we can actually see that happen. So what we would do is we would take our materials texture offset and set that equal to probably a vector 2. That would be our X and our Y, right? So some version of a vector 2. So if you want a mini challenge, you can go ahead and try to pause the video here and try to complete this script on your own. What you should see is options for variables for your speed on X and Y. And if you change them to anything but 0, you should see your texture scrolling. Try to complete this challenge on your own, and no worries if you can't figure it out. I will show you a solution right now. So we want a variable for our speed X and our speed Y. That probably is going to be a float. So I'm going to say private float speed X. I'm going to set that equal to 0 and a private float speed Y. And I will also set that to 0. Let's make sure to serialize those fields and serialize that field. Cool. We also want a reference to the material, right? So we want to say a private material, and I'm just going to call it _matte. Now we need a reference to the current X and Y. So that would be a private float current X. And because this is the same variable type, I could even do current Y. Cool. Now that we have these variables that we want to use, we can assign this material using get component. Since this script is attached to the same game object that we're trying to do this on, we don't need to find the game object. We can simply say matte equals get component, and we're looking for the material. Now we need to assign the current textures X to the main texture offset. So to do that, we're just going to take our current X and we're going to set that equal to the material dot. And I think if we look in here. Here it is, main texture offset. And I'm setting that to .x. Sweet. All right, let's do the same thing for the Y. So I'm going to say current Y equals material dot main texture offset dot Y. Perfect. We're now set up, and now we can actually change these based on that speed that we defined above. So what I can say here is I can say current X plus equals time dot delta time times our speed X. And then let's do that for Y. Current Y plus equals time dot delta time times speed Y. Changing this number has no effect unless we actually apply it back to our material. So we're going to take our material dot, what will we say? Is it main texture offset? I think there's a thing in here where we can set, here it is, set texture offset to, and in here, if you take a look at the tooltip, there's a couple overrides. It has an integer that will be the ID of the texture and then a vector2 value. If you look at the second one, it will take in a name. So the name of the main texture, I'm pretty sure, is just about always main text. And then we're just going to pass in a new vector2 that will be our current X and our current Y. Okay, if we've set everything up correctly, we should on our plane have a script, yes, where we have a speed X and a speed Y. Let's say I'm going to put 0.1 on the X, and let's hit play. Ooh, nothing. And what we're getting is there's no material attached to the plane game object, but a script is trying to access that. So what we need to do, instead of going to the material directly, we need to go through the renderer and then grab the material. Yep, the renderer is what's holding the material. So back on our scroll texture, instead of grabbing material here, we're actually going to change this to renderer, and I'm going to change the name to underscore renderer. And now in here, we can change renderer equals get component of type renderer. Instead of the material, we're going to get the renderer dot material. There we go. Renderer dot material. And down here, the material, let's change it to renderer dot material. Cool. So we're going through the renderer instead. All right, now let's try. Okay, so on our plane, 0.1 speed on the X, let's hit play. All right, and there we go. My screen is now scrolling this way. And you'll notice this line right here as the texture is repeating, kind of obnoxious. So what you can do is you can go to the texture directly, and here in the inspector, there's a thing called wrap mode. Right now it's set to repeat, which is what you're seeing right here, that hard line. But you can set it to mirror, and that should mirror image. You might still get an area that's obvious to tell that it's repeating, but hopefully it won't be as obvious. So choose mirror, hit apply, and now let's go back. I'm also going to go on my plane, and I'm going to change mine from speed X 0.1 to speed Y 0.1 or maybe 2 so that it's scrolling on the Y. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I don't know if you caught that. You can kind of see where it mirror images like that, but it's much, much harder to tell. Lastly, I'm actually going to set mine to negative 0.2 so it looks like it's actually going down. There we go. That's the effect that I'm looking for, like I'm running up this mountain if my character had like a run animation or something. Okay, sweet. The last thing that we might want to take a look at is this texture's kind of flat, and if you don't know how to do that already, you can easily generate a height map and a normal map to make this texture fake some lighting so it can like receive shadows. So what you want to do is you want to open up your texture. Again, I know that this has watermarks on it, but you want to open it in whatever editing program you have, and actually you want to duplicate this thing. Is there file? Yes, file duplicate. So I've named the duplicated one height map. I'm closing out of the other one, and for the height map, all you want to do is you want to adjust the color. So here's our color, the saturation all the way down. You just want a black and white texture, and you kind of want to bump the contrast a little bit and maybe set these values to be in the middle here. Oh, the watermark might have some interesting effects to the texture, but that's cool. Okay, so the areas that are darker are lower, the areas that are white are higher. That's how a height map is read. Beautiful, so I'm gonna close out of that, and hopefully, there we go. Now I have a height map in here. On the materials for this, the height map here, we can select the snow height map. So in that little channel here, you could drag and drop or select it like I just did. If you just Google normal map online, it's this GitHub project that's free. Go ahead and click on this. And what it allows you to do is you can drag and drop a height map into here, and it will generate a normal map for you. So I've located in my folders in the visual effects series, my assets, my texture folder, the height map that I made, and I'm just going to drag and drop that into here. Cool. And now you can see the cube is previewing what that looks like, so you can mess with like the strength of it a little bit to make it look a little bit more how you would expect your texture to look. You can play around with the settings for sure. I'm okay with it being kind of blurry smooth like this, and download. This normal map, you can drag back into your Unity project, and then here. Now we have a normal map for our snow. So if we go back to our materials where the snow material is looking for a normal, if we type in normal, I know the one that it is this, but it might help me to actually name it like snow normal or whatever, but we'll select that and look at how our texture already changes. Now, this isn't marked as a normal map, so fix it. Interesting. You can also mess with the strength here. So like I've set the normal max strength to 3, to 2, to 1. So now our texture looks something kind of like this. Sweet, it's coming along. All right, hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye for now.